Dear listeners, we're back with a new story. Get ready for cheating, revenge, and wild relationship drama. The day had been long, but I felt a strange sense of satisfaction as I left the office. I'd managed to wrap up a big project earlier than expected, which meant I could head home before rush hour hit. The city streets were a blur of lights and the hum of engines as I drove, thinking about Sarah. She'd been distant lately, but I chalked it up to the stress of life, our jobs, the kids, everything that comes with being married for years. We weren't the same carefree couple we used to be, but I still believed in us. Today, I thought, I'd change that. I'd bought her a small gift, a necklace with a delicate silver chain and a tiny heart pendant. Nothing too flashy. Sarah didn't like flashy, but it was something to show her I was thinking about her. As I pulled into the driveway, I noticed Chris's car parked out front. Chris, the music teacher. The guy she had talked about endlessly for months now. He was helping her learn piano, a skill she'd always wanted to pick up. I didn't think much of it at first, maybe they'd run over their lesson time. I entered the house quietly, eager to surprise her. The usual noise from the kids was absent. Luke and Emma were spending the weekend with Sarah's parents. The house felt too still, too empty. Sarah? I called, my voice echoing slightly in the silence. No response. I started up the stairs, the gift box tucked in my pocket. I figured maybe they were wrapping up a lesson in the study, where the piano was. But as I got closer to the bedroom, something felt wrong. The door was only half closed, and from the gap, I could hear soft murmurs, a voice I knew all too well. Sarah's voice. And then another voice, Chris's. I pushed the door open, not fully prepared for what I saw. There, in our bed, the bed we had shared for years, was Sarah. Her body was tangled with Chris's, both half covered by the sheets. The sight hit me like a physical blow, knocking the wind out of my lungs. My stomach lurched, my mind racing to make sense of what I was seeing. Sarah gasped as she noticed me, her eyes wide with horror. She scrambled to cover herself, pulling the sheets up around her, as if that could undo the damage, as if modesty now mattered. "Alex," she stammered, her voice shaky, tears already forming in her eyes. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. It felt like time had stopped, and I was stuck in some surreal nightmare. My mind kept telling me to react, to do something, anything, but all I could do was stand there, staring at them in disbelief. "Alex, I can explain," Sarah tried again, her voice rising in panic. Chris, for his part, was deathly silent. He had moved away from her, sitting on the edge of the bed, his face pale. He wouldn't even look at me. I felt my hands trembling, but my voice came out calm, too calm. "Explain." I echoed, shaking my head as if I hadn't heard her right. "Explain what, Sarah?" I stepped further into the room, my eyes flicking between the two of them, trying to process the betrayal. The weight of the small box in my pocket felt like lead. "Alex, please, it's not what you think," Sarah pleaded, but even she seemed to know how pathetic that sounded. Her words were weak, desperate. She looked like a child caught in a lie. I laughed, a bitter, hollow sound. "Not what I think." My voice rose, the shock starting to melt away, replaced by a growing fury. "Then tell me, Sarah. What is it? What exactly am I looking at?" Chris finally spoke, his voice low and shaky. "Alex, I'm sorry, man. This wasn't supposed to happen." I snapped my head toward him, my anger flaring. "Wasn't supposed to happen?" I spat. "What, you just tripped and fell into my wife?" He flinched, his face flushed with shame, but I didn't care. The fury in my chest was like wildfire, threatening to consume me entirely. I took a step closer, my fists clenched at my sides. "Get out," I said through gritted teeth, my eyes locked on Chris. He didn't argue. He quickly grabbed his clothes, avoiding eye contact as he bolted past me, out the door. Once Chris was gone, the room fell into an unbearable silence. Sarah was sitting up in the bed now, her knees drawn to her chest, still holding the sheets around her like a shield. Her eyes were red and puffy, her lips trembling as she tried to speak. Alex, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean for this to happen, she whispered. I stood there, my mind reeling. How many times had we fought over her piano lessons? How many times had I felt something was off, but ignored it, convincing myself it was just stress or a phase? How could I have been so blind? You didn't mean for this to happen. I repeated, my voice barely above a whisper. Do you even hear yourself? Her tears came in earnest now, sobs racking her body. I don't know what to say. I was lost. I didn't mean to hurt you like this. Lost? I shot back, shaking my head in disbelief. You call this being lost, Sarah? You've destroyed us. You've destroyed everything. She looked up at me, desperate, broken. Please, Alex. I know I made a mistake, but we can fix this. We can fix this. I interrupted, my voice cold, unrecognizable even to me. How do you fix this, Sarah? How do you erase the fact that you betrayed me, in our home, in our bed? She didn't have an answer. She just sat there, sobbing, repeating, I'm sorry, over and over like a broken record. I didn't wait for her to find the words. I turned and walked out of the room, the small box still burning in my pocket. I couldn't listen to her apologies, her excuses. I couldn't stay in that room, surrounded by the remains of what used to be our life. As I left the house, slamming the door behind me, the weight of it all finally crashed down on me. The woman I had trusted, the woman I had loved more than anything, had shattered everything we had built. And I knew, as I stood on the front steps staring into the darkening sky, that nothing would ever be the same again. The next morning, I woke up in the guest room, the weight of the previous night pressing down on me like a heavy blanket. The house was filled with a suffocating silence, amplifying the emptiness I felt inside. I rolled over, staring at the ceiling, memories of Sarah and Chris intertwined in my mind like a grotesque tapestry I couldn't tear away from. I didn't want to face her, but I knew I had to. We needed to talk, though I dreaded what that conversation would entail. As I made my way to the kitchen, the familiar scents of coffee and pancakes were absent. It felt strange. Usually, I'd find Sarah bustling around, already 2 steps ahead of the day. But today, the kitchen was still. I poured myself a cup of coffee, my hands shaking slightly as I brought the mug to my lips. Moments later, I heard footsteps approaching. My heart raced as I turned to see her standing in the doorway. Sarah looked tired, her eyes puffy and red, hair messy as if she had barely slept. The sight of her made my chest tighten with a mix of anger and sorrow. Alex, she said softly, stepping into the kitchen. I didn't know if you'd be up yet. I didn't respond immediately, just took a long sip of my coffee, trying to mask the bitterness I felt toward her. The tension hung thick in the air, and I could sense her trepidation. Can we talk? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I set the mug down with a deliberate thud, turning to face her fully. Talk. About what, exactly? How you betrayed me. How you destroyed everything we built together. Her face fell, and she took a step closer, but I held my ground. I want to understand what happened, Sarah. I really do. But I'm not ready to pretend like this is just another conversation. Please, she pleaded, tears welling in her eyes. I know I've made a terrible mistake. I can't even begin to explain how sorry I am. Sorry. I scoffed, feeling the heat rise in my chest. Sorry doesn't cut it, Sarah. Sorry doesn't change what you did. I know, she exclaimed, her voice rising slightly. I've been an idiot. I was feeling so overwhelmed, and Chris was just there. It wasn't supposed to mean anything. Wasn't supposed to mean anything. I echoed incredulously, shaking my head. You don't get to downplay this. You don't get to make excuses. Alex, she started, but I interrupted her. No. I want to hear you take responsibility. You made a choice. You chose to betray me, to betray us. Her face crumpled, and she brought her hands to her face, crying openly now. I don't know what to say. I was stupid, and I hurt you. I've hurt our family. I can't take it back, but I want to fix this. Fix this. I repeated, my voice dripping with sarcasm. How do you fix something like this, Sarah? You can't just wave a magic wand and make everything okay. I'm willing to do whatever it takes, she said, her voice trembling. I'll go to counseling. I'll end things with Chris. I'll do anything, Alex. Please, just give me a chance. A chance. The words hung in the air, heavy with implication. And what about our kids? What do you think this has done to them? How do you think they'll feel when they find out their mother has been unfaithful? The mention of the kids made her cry harder, and my heart ached at the sight. I hated seeing her like this, but I couldn't let that cloud my judgment. Don't you dare think about them, she shouted suddenly, the sudden burst of emotion surprising us both. I made a mistake, and I hate myself for it, but it doesn't mean I don't love them. I love you both so much. I stepped back, the force of her words hitting me like a slap. Love? How can you say that? Love doesn't betray. I know. I know, she yelled, tears streaming down her face. I messed up, and I don't know how to fix it. But I want to try, Alex. I really do. I took a deep breath, my heart racing. The hollow apologies felt like a band-aid on a gaping wound, and no amount of tears would heal the hurt. I can't just forget what happened. I can't act like it didn't happen, I said, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside me. I don't know if I can look at you the same way again. I'll do whatever it takes to prove to you that I can be trusted again, she insisted, her desperation palpable. Just give me time. Please, Alex, time. I repeated, shaking my head. Time doesn't change the past, Sarah. And I don't know if I can trust you again. I don't even know if I want to. She fell silent, the reality of my words sinking in. We stood there, two people who had once loved each other, now standing on opposite sides of a chasm that felt insurmountable. The love we had shared was still there, buried under layers of pain and betrayal, but the wounds were too fresh, too raw to navigate through. I need space, I finally said, my voice low. I need time to think. I can't do this right now, she nodded, her face falling in defeat. Okay. I understand. I know, I interrupted, my heart heavy. Just, give me some time. As I turned to leave the kitchen, I could feel her gaze on my back, the weight of her sorrow pressing against me like a physical force. I walked away, leaving behind a life that felt irrevocably changed, the path ahead uncertain and dark. Outside, the fresh air hit my face, but it offered little solace. I needed to think, to find clarity in the chaos of emotions swirling inside me. The ache in my chest hadn't dulled, and I knew it wouldn't be easy. But somewhere inside, I realized that this was the moment I had to decide what was next for me and our family. The choice would define our future, and I wasn't ready to make it just yet. The day dragged on, each hour stretching like an eternity as I navigated through the motions of life. I sat on the couch in the living room, staring at the walls, the familiar surroundings now feeling foreign and oppressive. The reality of the situation was suffocating, and I knew I needed to talk to someone. I reached for my phone and texted Tom, "Can we meet? I really need to talk." Tom replied almost immediately. "Of course. How about the coffee shop down the street in an hour?" I agreed, my heart pounding with the anticipation of finally letting someone in on the turmoil that had taken over my life. When I arrived at the coffee shop, the familiar aroma of brewed coffee and baked goods did little to comfort me. Tom was already seated at a corner table, his expression shifting from casual curiosity to concern as I approached. "Hey, man," he said, pulling me into a quick hug. "You look like you've seen a ghost." "Yeah, well, I'm living one," I replied, taking a seat across from him. "Thanks for coming." Always, he said, leaning in slightly. What's going on? You seem off. I took a deep breath, gathering my thoughts. It's Sarah. She cheated on me. Tom's eyes widened in shock. What? Man, I'm so sorry. I had no idea things had gotten that bad. I nodded, my voice barely above a whisper. I didn't either. I found her in bed with Chris, her music teacher. I can't believe it happened. Tom ran a hand through his hair, trying to process the information. Damn, Alex. I can't even imagine what you're going through. I thought we were good, you know. I thought we were working through our issues, I said, frustration bubbling up again. But it turns out she was just lying to me the whole time. Have you talked to her since? Tom asked gently. Yeah, we had a conversation this morning. She's filled with hollow apologies and wants to fix things, but I don't know if I can trust her again. I leaned back in my chair, staring out the window, where the world continued on, blissfully unaware of my crumbling life. Tom nodded, his expression serious. Trust is a big deal, man. It's not something you can just rebuild overnight. Have you thought about what you want, honestly? I don't know, I admitted, my voice trembling. I'm just trying to figure out if I should even consider working things out or if it's better to move on. Tom leaned in closer, his eyes piercing into mine. What about the kids? They're going to be affected by all of this, too. Have you thought about how this will impact them? I clenched my fists, feeling a wave of anger wash over me. Of course I have. But I'm also human, Tom. I can't just ignore the fact that my heart is shattered into a million pieces. I get it, he said, nodding slowly. But think about them. They need stability. They need to know that you both love them, even if things are tough between you and Sarah. The thought of Luke and Emma brought a fresh wave of pain. I pictured their innocent faces, unaware of the storm brewing in our lives. You're right, I said finally, my voice more resolute. I need to think about what's best for them. But it's hard to separate my feelings for Sarah from what's best for the kids. Maybe you should talk to Laura, Tom suggested. She's been through her fair share of relationship struggles. She might have some insight. I sighed, feeling a mix of relief and dread. Yeah, I'll talk to her. I just hope she can help me sort through this mess. Tom reached across the table, placing a comforting hand on mine. You're not alone in this, Alex. Whatever you decide, I'm here for you. We'll figure it out together. After our conversation, I felt a little lighter, as if sharing my burden had eased the weight on my shoulders. As I drove home, the sunlight filtered through the trees lining the road, casting patterns of light and shadow. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was standing at a crossroads, and every decision I made from here would shape the future for me and my children. When I got home, I found Sarah sitting on the couch, her expression a mix of hope and despair. She looked up as I entered, her eyes searching mine for answers. I didn't know if you'd come back, she said, her voice soft. I went to talk to Tom, I replied, trying to keep my tone neutral. He thinks I should consider what's best for the kids. Did he say anything else? She asked, leaning forward, her hands clasped tightly together. Just that I need to think clearly about what I want, I said, avoiding her gaze. It's not easy to do that right now. Sarah nodded, tears glistening in her eyes. I understand. I just want you to know that I'm willing to do whatever it takes to make this work. Sarah, I said slowly, feeling the weight of the words. It's not just about you wanting to fix things. It's about trust. It's about whether I can ever see you the same way again. I know I've shattered your trust, she whispered, her voice cracking. But I love you, Alex. I've been so lost, and I want to find my way back to you. I took a deep breath, trying to gather my thoughts. Love isn't enough right now. We need to figure out how to navigate this, not just for ourselves but for the kids. They need to see us working together, even if that means we're apart for a while. Sarah's face fell, her body sagging as if the weight of my words had physically struck her. I'll do anything to make it work, I promise. Please, just don't give up on us. I wanted to comfort her, to assure her that there was still hope. But as I looked into her tear-streaked face, I felt a deep well of uncertainty. I need time to think, I said finally, my voice firm. Time to figure out what our next steps should be. We can talk more later. As I walked away, I could feel Sarah's gaze on my back, the mix of desperation and sorrow in her eyes haunting me. The struggle ahead would be arduous, and I didn't know how it would end. But as I made my way to the guest room, I knew that no matter what, I had to prioritize my children and their well-being above all else. I would find a way forward, even if it felt like walking through a dense fog, unsure of what lay ahead. The days that followed felt like a whirlwind. I tried to maintain a sense of normalcy for Luke and Emma, but every smile I forced felt hollow. They were blissfully unaware of the chaos brewing just beneath the surface, and I desperately wanted to shield them from the truth. But I also knew that transparency was important. After all, they deserved to know what was happening in their own home. I spent countless hours replaying my conversations with Sarah in my mind, searching for answers in the echoes of her words. She seemed genuinely remorseful, but doubt crept in with each moment we spent together. I had already opened the door to the possibility of separation, yet I couldn't shake the nagging feeling that more was lurking beneath the surface. One afternoon, after a long day of work, I decided it was time to confront Sarah again. We needed clarity, and I needed to know the full extent of her betrayal. As I approached the living room, I found her sitting on the couch, flipping through a magazine, though her mind seemed miles away. "Sarah, can we talk?" I said, my voice steady but laced with urgency. She looked up, startled. "Of course. Is everything okay?" "No, it's not," I replied, crossing my arms. "I need to know the truth, exactly what's been going on between you and Chris." Her eyes widened, and she took a deep breath. "I've told you everything I can, Alex. I thought I was being honest with you." "Being honest? You mean with the parts that make you look bad?" I shot back, frustration bubbling to the surface. "I need to know if this was just a one-time mistake or if it was something more serious." She shifted in her seat, her fingers nervously tracing the edges of the magazine. It was complicated. We connected over music, over things I thought I was missing in my life. But I never meant for it to go this far. "Complicated?" I echoed, disbelief creeping into my tone. "You don't get to dress this up as complicated. You made choices, Sarah. You chose to be with him. You chose to betray me." "I know," she pleaded, her voice rising. "And I'm not trying to justify it. But there was something about the attention he gave me that made me feel wanted. It was stupid and selfish, and I regret it every single day, every day." I asked, sarcasm lacing my words. "What about the day you decided to sleep with him? Did you think about me then?" Her face fell, tears pooling in her eyes. "I was caught up in a moment of weakness. I thought I could handle it without hurting you." "Handle it?" I replied, incredulous. "You can't handle an affair, Sarah. You can't just pretend it doesn't matter." She swallowed hard, her expression shifting from regret to desperation. "I'm trying to be honest with you, Alex. I want to fix this. But I can't change the past. Can you please just listen?" "Listen to what?" "More excuses." I stepped closer, my heart racing. "You've broken my trust, and I don't know if I can ever see you the same way again. Please, I need you to understand," she begged, her voice trembling. "I didn't want to hurt you or our family. I love you, but I was scared. I felt so lost." "Love? You call that love?" I scoffed, shaking my head. "If you loved me, you wouldn't have put me in this position." "I know. I was a fool," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "But I want to make amends. I want to fight for our marriage." "Fight for it? How can we fight for something when you've already torn it apart?" I felt a mix of anger and sorrow boiling within me. "What do you think I should do, Sarah? Just forget everything and pretend like nothing happened?" "I don't know," she said, her voice breaking. But I'm willing to try. I'll go to counseling. I'll end things with Chris. I'll do whatever it takes to win back your trust. Counseling? I repeated, feeling a flicker of hope mixed with skepticism. Do you really think that's enough? I need to show you I'm serious, she insisted, her voice desperate. You deserve that chance to see how much I care about our family. I paused, contemplating her words. And what about Chris? Is this really over? I ended it, I promise. I told him it was wrong and that I want to focus on my family, she said, her eyes pleading with me for understanding. Did he believe you? I asked, suspicion creeping into my mind. Alex, please. I don't want to involve him anymore. I just want to focus on us. On us? I scoffed. We're not the same anymore, Sarah. I need to know if you've truly cut ties or if this is just another lie. I swear to you, I'll cut all contact, she promised, her sincerity evident in her voice. I just need you to give me a chance, just a chance. I asked, my heart pounding. That's a big ask after everything. I know it is, she admitted. But I want to fight for what we have, for our family. I can't lose you, Alex. Losing me isn't the only thing you need to worry about, I said, my tone serious. We have 2 kids who deserve to know what's happening. They're going to be affected by this, and we have to do this for them. I agree, she said, nodding earnestly. We need to be honest with them. They deserve to understand what's going on, and we have to show them that we can still be a family, even if things are different. I took a deep breath, the weight of the conversation settling over me like a fog. This is going to be incredibly difficult, Sarah. But if we're going to do this, we need to be completely transparent with each other. Absolutely, she said, her eyes locked onto mine with a seriousness that sent a chill down my spine. I promise to be open and honest from now on. Good, I replied, still feeling skeptical. But I'm not making any promises about us. I need time to process everything. As I turned to leave, Sarah reached out and touched my arm gently. Please, just think about it. I love you, and I want us to work through this. I felt a pang of longing but quickly pushed it aside. I'll think about it, but right now, I need space. With that, I left the room, my heart heavy with uncertainty. I knew the road ahead would be treacherous, filled with tough decisions and emotional turmoil. But as I stepped outside, the cool breeze hit my face, grounding me in the reality that I needed to protect my children and navigate this path carefully. As I sat in my car, I took a moment to collect my thoughts. The final truth hung heavily in the air between Sarah and me, and it felt as though we were teetering on the edge of an abyss. I wanted to believe in her promise to change, but trust had been shattered, and rebuilding it would be a journey fraught with challenges. I started the engine and drove away, feeling the weight of my decision looming ahead. I knew that whatever path I chose, it would shape our lives forever. And deep down, I realized that I was not just fighting for my marriage, I was fighting for the future of my family.